Hello, everybody. This is UpTown Villa Park.
Wait a
And
minute.
today we have a special guest.
Wait a
and
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We're going to, folks, we're going to go back in history a little bit. This is going to be
I
called,
don't think you're on camera.
this is going to be called the Sid and Tom Show. And if you recall back several years ago, Tom and Sid did this show. I'm Sid, by the way. And on my right is Tom.
I'm Tom.
I better give this back to Al because he controls has all the controls.
there we go. We're back to me. Thanks, Sid.
Yeah, be nice being on your show.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis is here. How you doing, Dennis?
Good.
This has not changed much, has it?
No, it's a free-for-all. We have a special guest here, and that is, we're trying to have some decorum on the show. I put a shirt on. Sid's got a shirt on. We have the Illinois State Senator from the 23rd District, Mr. Tom Cullerton. Tom, welcome back.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate it.
It is awesome. You are the only guest we've had so far this season that has returned.
That's come back.
That's come back.
You guys treat everybody good or what?
No,
We
we
try
have
to.
requests for others to come back, but you're the only one so far.
All right.
That doesn't mean you're not busy. I know you're very busy. And a lot of people think that, the state senators and state representatives spend all their time in Springfield arguing over bills and budgets and all that stuff. And there's a lot more that goes on in your capacity as state senator. Probably more important to some extent is your involvement in the community. And tell us a little bit about how you get out there and do things. You have a job fair coming up, right?
So it's sort of a misnomer that everybody thinks we're always in Springfield. We're in Springfield frequently, but a lot of work that we do is back up here. Obviously, when we run bills, some of the key people that we need to speak to are based out of here. The bills I run, especially with government consolidation and other issues, are focused out of things I learned and I've worked on here in DuPage County. Well, I've got to be in DuPage County to work on some of those things, and I have to talk to the stakeholders. I work very well with our chairman, Dan Cronin, of the county board. I work with our mayor here, Deb Bullwinkle, very well, and all the mayors surrounding, Carol Stream, Frank Severino. So as I'm looking at legislation and we're looking at how to vote on things, and when we're also looking at how to deal with things, me being back in district, consulting with school superintendents, mayors, local elected officials, talking to child care providers is always a big thing. Plus, we do a lot of events here in district for the residents of the 23rd District. Right now, next Wednesday, we are doing a job fair. It is our 4th annual job fair. It'll be at the Odeum from 10:30 till 2. We have over 100 employers coming, all of them seeking people to hire. So this is a positive thing. And I remember back when I first moved to Villa Park, Lee Daniels used to have an annual job fair, and from Elmhurst, and when he left, there wasn't one sort of brought by any state legislator. I thought that was a great idea of his. So I don't always need to reinvent the wheel, but sometimes bringing the wheel back is not a bad thing. Yeah. And in today's economy, while people we're seeing unemployment numbers go somewhat down, we also see that people are underemployed. Or possibly working 2 jobs instead of 1. So this can be an opportunity for them to come out, meet some employers. We'll have Google there, CBS is coming out. So it's not just a lot of staffing agencies, coming out. So you can really find yourself, hopefully, a niche and find yourself a new job. And then this Saturday, we have a shred event. So if you have old bills, old paperwork, old things that you need to shred, as everybody knows, information is the key. Information is the new theft of America. It's not coming in and breaking into your house. They're going through your garbage and taking your bills and then breaking into your bank account, breaking into your checking account. So you need to be shredding your valuable documents. You need to be shredding stuff that's old and you don't need anymore and not putting it out in your waste receptacle, just sitting the way it is. So on this Saturday in Glendale Heights at their Civic Center, we're holding a shred event from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We will also be taking old medications. The police department from Glendale Heights will be taking old, unused medications. As we say, look, if you got medication in your medicine cabinet, somebody may find it. Whether it's your grandson, whether it's your son, whether it's your child, your daughter, a spouse, somebody breaking in, they know you have lots of medications. Some of it's just old and won't have the efficiency that it was supposed to before.
Right.
You also don't want to just dump those down the toilets, get them into our waterways, because as everybody has seen and the studies have shown through the through the EPA, all those medications going into the waterways is detrimental to our waterway system. So come on out to Glendale Heights. We'll be taking those old medications as well.
Sounds good, sounds good. And we talked a little bit before the show got on the air that Walgreens now in the area has put out these boxes for taking drugs.
Right.
But you're exactly right. In fact, we run a PSA about exactly what you said, finding that medication in our medicine cabinets that we just didn't use.
Right.
And here in Villa Park, they've had Take Back Drug Days, and we've had some police departments officials come and talk about it. But they only do it once or twice a year.
Right.
So this is another opportunity that I think the last time we did it was in April.
Yeah.
Things accumulate, get them out of there because, and here's another area that you've had a great impact on, and that is the epidemic of drug overdoses. Is not only these prescription drugs, but also regular heroin drug addicts that have been involved in overdose events.
Right.
And here in Villa Park, we've got a system, and in DuPage County, a system for distribution of Narcan nasal spray for taking away the effects of overdose for someone who could possibly die
Right.
from these events. And you're spearheading and has spearheaded an effort to bring that statewide, right?
So we passed a bill called House Bill 1. The governor had vetoed initially. We then overrode his veto, and now the Narcan success that we've seen here in DuPage, and I hate to call it a success because it's based off of stopping the epidemic of heroin.
Yeah.
And as we found through over a year's worth of open meetings and forums, was that heroin really starts, it's an opiate. And it starts through prescription drugs. We found that most cases they didn't go from marijuana to heroin. They didn't go from alcohol to heroin. They went from either taking a medication that was prescribed to them, taking a medication that somebody gave them, or taking a medication that they found in somebody else's medicine cabinet. And the feeling from that, they were able to get that same euphoria or that same listless feeling from heroin.
Yeah.
Heroin is cheap. Heroin is
It's actually
accessible.
cheaper than
It's
trying to buy those.
much cheaper than trying to buy a prescription
market.
drug.
Yeah.
But it's cheap and it's accessible. It's all around. So we did everything we could to combat the efforts to not only get Narcan into the hands of all of our first responders statewide, to make sure that they know how to administer the Narcan, but also to increase our opportunity for patients to get into drug treatment facility programs. Locking up people who are addicted to heroin is not going to put them and stop them from doing heroin when they get out.
Right.
Locking them up is just going to detox them for a couple days or for a month or 6 months. Then they're going to go back on the street and they're going to do the same thing. And matter of fact, we just had a Representative Conroy told me we had an overdose over the weekend, a kid out of York High School. So you're seeing it still happen and still occurring. We've had over 100 saves this year on Narcan. So if you think about that, how many is that? How many people are still doing it when we've had over 100 people saved?
And that's just in DuPage County, right?
That's just in DuPage County.
Right.
And DuPage County was really sort of at the forefront of addressing this. When I was village president, we had the mayors, DuPage mayors and managers, along with Chairman Cronin, started addressing it with our schools, started addressing it with our county coroner, Rich Jorgensen, was the one who really started seeing the spike going up from it and seeing the deaths come in. And he said something needs to be done and we need to address this. And DuPage really kind of was at the forefront again of something that then went out statewide.
Right, right. Now, I may be wrong on this, Tom, but I think you also helped get that Narcan nasal spray into the schools, the school nurses, a while back, right?
Yes, so that was part of the HB1, is that we now, school administrators can utilize it as well. We also have now where first responders in schools are utilizing and have EpiPens.
Right.
So we're really doing it. It's actually, when people talk about the amount of work that schools do and police do, they're getting more involved in what they have to do on a daily basis. We also have it now where schools have the AEDs so that they can do the defibrillators, and they're training teachers and staff on how to use those as well.
Right.
So it's really ramping up to try to protect our children and protect the kids from not only harming themselves, but harming the community in general. Heroin, while some people think, oh, it's a drug, so it only hurts the person it's affecting, it has a social effect that hurts everybody. It hurts the entire family. It causes somebody to go into a vicious cycle of theft, crime, addiction, mistrust, and really it breaks down not only the sort of social fabric of an entire community, but of a family in general. If you talk to anybody who's had a family member who's been addicted to heroin, you'll find that their entire family gets torn apart by this terrible drug.
Yeah, and we've seen that in some of the seminars that you and you mentioned Deb Conroy, the Illinois state rep, have held throughout the area here, where we talk to some of those families.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's families that have gone through a loss a
Right.
lot, but also recovering or continuing to
Right.
control their addiction have been on those seminars and share their ideas. And so I wholeheartedly agree with your efforts in doing this, because it's not people who say, hey, I'm going to do something bad. They fall into this addiction through use of painkillers for something totally unrelated to the drug industry.
You'd be
with the
amazed
sports
when
industry.
when you hear a parent talk about their 20-year-old heroin addict child who was a star athlete, the best in school, and ended up hurting their knee in high school sports, or hurting their shoulder, or hurting their arm, and ended up getting some pain medication to take care of that. When that prescription ran out and when that time ran out, they moved on to something else.
Yeah.
And that something else was heroin.
Yeah, and it's a shame. And it's not just here in DuPage County, as you point out.
No.
It's statewide, it's worldwide.
No, it's becoming, interestingly enough, as I say, you hate to be at the forefront of this, but DuPage really took an aggressive stance of going after it and pushing our first responders to get the Narcan earlier than they did the rest of the state.
Right.
But now you're even seeing on a national level, Senator Dick Durbin is talking about it. The president talked about it. Everybody's talking about it nationally as it being a epidemic that's going on throughout our country.
Yeah, and the other problems that we've had with drugs over the years has been that people have become non-social. That's been the outcome. They become their own little clique, where that's the drug industry over there. Now it's people die
It's everywhere.
from
And
this.
people die.
Yeah,
And that's the key. It's not people falling just into massive forms of addiction and everything. This is you can take it, you can die.
Yeah.
First time you take it, you can die.
Yeah.
It's really a dangerous thing, and it needs to be stopped.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, there's other things going on, and
Let's go back to
you
that
mentioned
second.
something. Go ahead, Dennis.
What do you do for repeat offenders on that UP bill? And we have people in DuPage County, we know of some. 8 times they had overdose,
Right.
and they used the chemicals.
So the biggest thing that part of HB1 does is it starts to recognize those people, recognize those patterns, and finds a way. The best way, putting them in jail doesn't stop
Doesn't
the
do
problem.
nothing for it.
Doesn't stop the problem. House Bill 1, which we overrode the governor's veto on, actually sets up so that we can get these people into a treatment program and into a facility to
Yeah.
get them treated. Because if you just put them back on the street, if you put them in jail for 2 months, you put them in jail for 4 months, like you said, if you've overdosed 3-4 times, you're not learning. You're addicted, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So getting them into a treatment program is probably the number one thing that can be done. If you can't get them into some form of treatment program, you're just going to continue the cycle. You're not going to stop it because their will is not there.
What kind of treatment do you give these people?
Well,
Because they can go through this cycle 10, 12 times.
obviously I am not the expert in the field of how to do
Neither
the
am I,
exact
neither am I.
treatment,
Not
but
being the
there's a
devil
couple
advocate.
ways that they do it. Obviously, they bring them in for treatment. You have overnight stays. You have home visits. If they stay in a facility, they can dry out for an extended period of
Yeah.
time. Then they just go through a whole program with counselors, with addiction therapists on how to sort of break the cycle of heroin. And then it sort of gets them to refocus energy on going back into society and having a job. And then, once you can break that cycle, part of it also is up to them to say that they're going to keep going to a 12-step program, whether it be something similar to AA or NA, and then keep in contact with other people. reestablish family relationships, things of that nature. Should hopefully strengthen the person back up,
We want them out of the jail.
but to get them out of the jails because
Get
it
'em out
doesn't
of-
help us there.
Get them out of jail, and you guys passed a bill, and give tickets instead of for drugs in general.
So for right now, there's a bill that the governor did sign that some people call it decriminalizing, but it's actually up to 10 grams of marijuana if it's caught on your person. So if Dennis Keating, you're rolling around, walking around the street, and you've got 10 grams of marijuana on you, and the cops catch you, they would write you a ticket now,
It's a $200
as opposed to sending you to jail.
and it's a $200 ticket
Right.
from the state. Well, now, Naperville had a ticket, their own zoning, their own law. It was a $750 ticket, and they were writing them on. Now they can't do it no more because you guys come up with this. The paperwork is not out there for them to give out the ticket shit anyway.
Right.
So what do you do for income for the villagers? They're taking a big
Well,
beating.
hopefully Naperville wasn't doing it to create income.
No, they weren't, but they're giving out good tickets.
Hopefully they were. Hopefully that they weren't, stopping people so that they could create an income for themselves.
But they're keeping them out of jail.
On
The other
that
thing
level-
is you're eliminating the whole process of arrest, prosecution, jail time, and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
No, I
by
know what
these small
I know what
things
Dennis is talking
versus the
about.
$750. They may be overlapping and saving more.
Dennis
by
is
not arresting
Dennis
them.
is talking about
Yeah.
Naperville's losing money because they're
Yeah.
not able to write a $750
Yeah,
ticket
ticket.
anymore.
Got that, but there's
But-
more expenses
But,
being.
without a doubt, Naperville was,
arrest, yeah.
Naperville was keeping them out of jail with
Right.
a bigger ticket
Yeah.
for years.
They just
The
like
state-
taking more money in.
The state is doing it now. The state's doing it now, which is a good idea. I don't want them in DuPage County. Cook County can't take no more.
No.
And we got to keep them out of jail. We're not doing it. But I'm
Well,
just
Cook
saying-
County, sadly, Cook County is, and if you look at some of the statistics, you'll see the largest mental health facility we have in the state is
Should-
Cook
should
County.
make
Is Cook
hospitals
County
full.
Jail. Cook County Jail. They say up to 35% of the inmates in Cook County Jail right now have a mental capacity, mental illness.
Right.
35%, and that jail is overcrowded right
Should
now.
make
If you talk to
hospitals,
Tom
can't get no
Dart,
more in there.
yeah, you talk to Tom
Right,
Dart,
I've
he'll
been
tell
there.
you his jail
I've
is
been there.
full, and a lot of his customers in that jail are mentally ill.
Without a doubt, yeah.
I visited that jail several times when I was working in the telecom industry and noticed that there was 26,000 places for people to stay. And they could stay there a year before they get their court date and trial completed.
Right.
So it's a long
Well,
process
that's
over there.
right.
And thank God we don't have the similar things here in our own county, but it's part of our problems too. I wanted to go back though, Tom, and talk, you mentioned something about ID theft and
Right.
the shredding thing that's going to happen in Glendale Heights. There's another aspect of the efforts that you've done, and that is very close to it, and that is scams for seniors.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
So what we have is we call it our Silver Beat program, and we've probably been to 10, 12 cities throughout the district over the course of the past, 6, 8 months. And what we do is we bring in the Attorney General's office. The
Yep.
Attorney General is the lead agency when it comes to scam alerts. As seniors, obviously, didn't get on the computer phase and computer tech phase as quick as our millennials are. But seniors are really getting on. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're going all over the computer. But it sets them up and
Even
sets
Sid.
them and sets them. Even Sid is always on the computer. Oh, I give Sid a hard time. The key is that they get
Spider solitaire.
Spider Solitaire. See, very good. They have a big opportunity to be scammed. Anybody who's been on computers for a while will see the letter from the prince in Botswana, who will tell you if you send me in your just your checking account number, you've inherited $1 million.
From the
You
King of
didn't know
Botswana.
that you were related to so and so. I need your information because we have a lottery check for you, but I need you to send me $100 and just
And
send me a
gift
check,
cards.
and you send it to me. And what they're really looking for is to get your routing numbers off your check. They're looking to get your credit card number. They're looking to get your social security number. They're looking to get any information they can off of you, and they're very good. And they do it on the phone. The big one of the big ones now is people
IRS.
calling from the IRS
Yeah.
and telling you, we have an officer on the way to your house.
You talked about that last week, Dennis,
We
right?
talked about that last week, and you know what?
Did you really?
Honest, a month ago, we were at the police station across the street.
Yeah,
Two older women, I can't say older women, two women my age,
yes.
came into the station. They said, we just at Target, and we were buying 500,000 gift cards, $100 each. And the cashier told us to come over here and talk to you first. It was a scam.
Oh, okay, they were
They were
going to send it
them.
some.
They were going to send them to somebody.
Right.
So
And there was
Target,
Target told the,
Put the
the
flag up.
cashier told talk to them first.
yeah,
She could tell me anything else. She says, go talk to the police department before you do anything.
yeah, yeah.
And the coppers took all the information and everything else. I don't know what happened. I never followed up.
So it's potentially a scam, but
it was a scam
certainly
right here in
close.
Villa Park, $500.
So it happens.
It
A piece of advice would be if you, your local charitable organizations, your Rotary Club, your Lions Club, your Kiwanis, the VFW, could all use contributions. That would be, of course, tax deductible, as opposed to something that sounds real good over the telephone or real good in a letter or something like that. Usually, it's an old saw, but usually if it sounds too good, it is.
Yeah, I know, but,
Yeah.
but
And
people-
so what they're also doing though is when they go online, they're putting headers on the websites that make it look like it's from PayPal, make it look like it's from
Right.
Chase Bank, make it look like it's from
Wells
Visa,
Fargo.
and they say we need your information because you've had a security breach.
yeah,
The key is they won't. You got to remember something, folks. IRS is never calling you.
right.
They're never ever going to call you on the phone and say they got money and show up at your house. They're just not going to do that, and they're certainly not going to tell you they're doing it, and they're not going to call you in advance and say, "Hey, get out of your house because we're coming," or they're not going to say, "Hey, we'll be there. Have $1,000 or we're going to arrest you."
Yeah.
It's just not something that happen. The other one that's big on seniors that they get is. They're very good at playing into people's, whether they're sympathetic hearts, whatever it is. They'll get on the phone as soon as somebody picks up. They'll go, "Grandma," and if grandma or grandpa,
Yeah.
and if somebody on the other side go, "Oh, is this Johnny?" "Yes, it's Johnny.
Right.
I've
Even though
been
it's
in a
not.
terrible car accident. Don't tell mom and dad I've been in a terrible car accident. I need $150 so I can bond out the car, and then we're going to go get it fixed.
Right.
Can you send it to me?" They said, "Call it back." And then they call back, the next day. "I got the 150. Thank you. The car's out, but the problem is this. I need $1,000. Can you please don't tell mom and dad, and I'll see you." And we've had multiple cases over and over where the AG hears about it, and some people send the actual money. Other people call up their friend, and they go, "Hey, real quick, did this happen?" Or they call back their grandchild.
On the number that they
That's
know.
the one.
Yeah.
That's the one that's always the killer. Is they call back the grandchild, and the grandchild will go, "No,
I'm okay.
I'm in class."
I'm in bed.
Or "I'm in bed," or I'm at home. What are you talking about? So really, we bring the Attorney General out. They go through all the different telltale signs of what is happening. The seminar lasts usually about 45 minutes to an hour. Like I said, we've done about 12 of these throughout the district. We've got another one next week in Bloomingdale at their park district. We've had them in our park districts, our senior centers. They've been very successful, and we're hoping and very well attended. And we want to make sure that people get that information out. And really, you probably remember every so often around Villa Park, we used to call it the gypsy scam,
Yeah.
where they'd come in and they'd say, "Oh, your driveway.
The
Look
driveway.
at all these cracks. I can seal it."
Yeah.
And they talk to a senior, and the senior will say, "Okay, here you go. Here's $500," and then the guy just puts paint on it.
Right.
Tile.
Or water soluble.
Or water soluble.
Yeah.
Or you get the one of the trees. "Here, let's go to the back and let me look at the trees." "Oh, okay, I need $250. I'll be back tomorrow."
Yeah.
They never come back.
Or the partner when you go to the back,
when you go to the back,
Goes
the
in your front
partner
door.
comes in the front door and rips off all your stuff.
Yeah.
So there's
If I'm taking advantage of it as a senior, I'm ashamed to tell anybody.
Right.
So what do I do?
you don't want to tell anybody, so you don't say anything,
That's right.
yeah.
and you just
gotta-
get taken.
So you
Call
got to
that-
get it on the front end. You got to
Call
stop the
911 and they'll come talk to you.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
They're there to help you.
yeah. No, that's a good thing because everybody has seen that, heard of that. Not only the computer scams, but the telephone scams that you talked about.
Right.
And now this IRS thing that.
The IRS thing
Yeah,
has
it's-
come out of nowhere, and it's been
everybody,
pretty big.
They're scared of the name.
You know, sometimes I had a scam on my computer. This is, I think it was the FBI was going to, you've been watching, you've got illegal stuff on your computer, send money to get rid of it.
Yeah,
You
you,
didn't
I
send
think
me
that-
none.
Huh?
didn't send
send
money,
me
did
none.
you?
I didn't send any.
I'm waiting for the.
Good.
What I did, folks, what I did was I just looked at it, and I couldn't turn the computer off because I'm very computer illiterate, and so I just unplugged it, unplugged the computer, and of course that took it away. And
That will work, Sid. That works. If it worked for you, it's good.
But Sid is very honest. This is what the seniors' the problem is.
Right.
We don't understand the computers.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
see, that happens to everybody. That's
Very-
that's a
I
good
know.
thing. We should have more information like that for seniors about those that use a computer.
What we did with the
Those little
township-
things that
when the
just stop
township
that.
came out and talked to us and
Yeah.
everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, another thing that's happening actually today, I saw some kids in the neighborhood, brand new shoes, brand new backpacks, brand new everything, on their way the first day of school. And, we talked about that last week when we had my grandchildren on here and how depressing that is for us seniors because now we don't have grandchildren to play with.
But how every stay-at-home mom is jumping for joy.
Oh,
Absolutely.
God,
Absolutely.
Every stay-at-home mom is jumping for joy.
Next Monday
Every
they get
senior
parties all
is
over town.
every senior is saying, "Oh, the grandkids are away for school." Every stay-at-home mom's going, "Thank goodness."
They're gone. We can get a breath. But what I wanted to find out is, with all of the woes of the budget system in Springfield, how, and I'm not so concerned about Cook County, but in DuPage County, how is the funding, are there still threats to the funding in the school districts because of budget woes?
No, I will say that this year schools got more funding than they've gotten in the entire time I've been in the legislature.
Cool.
My first year, when I first came into office back in 2013, I was sworn in 2013, we were funding schools at about 80% of foundation level. Foundation level, for people out there, just to give you what it is, there's a level of funding that the state tries to hit for every student throughout the state. It's about $6,600 per student in the state that comes from the state of Illinois that goes with that child to actually sit there and go to school. So when I first got to Springfield, that was at 80%. My first year in 2013, we increased that to 84%. My second year, 2014, we increased that up to 89%. Last year, we increased it up to 92%. This year, we finally got it back to where the foundation level is fully funded. And that has been something I've been proud that we've been able to do every year since I've got into Springfield. And this year was tough, but we got that solved on June 29th. And every superintendent in my entire district called and said, "Thank you. We're very pleased to finally get," not only did they finally get their full funding, they weren't worried about what's going to happen the rest of the year. Part of the budget impasse stuff that goes on is it leaves some people up in the air. Well, with schools, they have to set their budget for an entire year. How many teachers they're going to have, how many people they're going to be in classrooms, what exactly they can afford, what exactly is going to be spent, whether they're going to have a band program or not, whether or not they're going to have football, whether or not they're going to have extracurriculars, teachers to do all the different things, how many special needs teachers they're going to have, and they need to know that budget before they go into the school year. So by passing that, every teacher, especially here in DuPage County, was very appreciative, and every superintendent gave me a call as soon as that was passed and signed saying thank you, and that all the kids here should see an actual increase in the funding that comes into the schools.
That's excellent, because you know well, being a resident here in Villa Park, having children in our school system, how great our schools are to begin with.
Right.
And we want to keep them that way. and funding is the only answer to that. You got to
Well,
have the right
my oldest is sleeping as late as possible today because tomorrow is the first day of Willowbrook.
funding. Yeah.
So he is sleeping as long as he possibly can to get those last few hours of summer in of laziness, and then first thing tomorrow morning he's at Willowbrook.
I'm thinking, and I know your sons are great kids, but I'm thinking that he's sitting there with, a soup bowl size of ice cream and a game.
Not yet. No,
controls.
you know what? He's 15.
Okay, he's got
Sleeping is well. The video games are there. The sleeping is the key to the highway for him right now. I mean, I remember me being 15.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I know that
You
was
remember
different.
that far back?
You
Close
know.
to
Hey
that
now.
driving age. Close to that driving age. Hey, listen.
Hey, we had TVs back then.
Oh, golly, you see that.
See, I'm young.
I can't remember.
We had
I'm
radio.
young.
We had radio.
Back in my days at 15, I think it was Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. And you'd have to use your imagination to see
Well,
what he looked like, the big hero.
Gotcha.
90% of our audience has no idea who Jack Armstrong is. Tell us.
I would probably say 95%.
Who is Jack Armstrong, Sid?
That was a radio program. Jack Armstrong was a young hero type All-American Boy.
All right. And what was the big radio program sponsored by a company here out of Villa Park?
Ovaltine.
Oh my golly, there was Little Orphan Annie.
See it? I know these
And
things,
later
right?
on it
And I
was-
wasn't even around for them.
And later on, it was Captain Midnight. In fact, I've heard it said that sometimes over, especially in the old building at the Lincoln property, the old Ovaltine, that sometimes late at night you might be able to hear somebody say, Captain Midnight.
I'm telling you, go to our historical museum. You can read all about it, right?
And you
That's
go
where
there,
I- that's
and you
where I
walk through
found
the
out.
Ovaltine building today, you still smell chocolate.
Oh, you can still smell chocolate, and I will tell you what. The way I learned about the Little Orphan Annie stuff was at our historical museum, and looking up everything going on, and noticing that Ovaltine was the sponsor of Little Orphan Annie.
That's right.
I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. And Little Orphan Annie's author comes from your district as well, Lombard.
Yes, it does.
Right, one town over.
Yep.
We like people from Lombard. They're cool. Let me ask you about a couple of things that we've talked about in the past, and that is growth in business in the district. Jobs and activity coming from the extension to the
Right.
expressway up on the northeast corner of DuPage County through O'Hare Extension has been a great boom. And things have slowed down a little bit and started up again. I know this
Well,
keeps going.
you're seeing a lot of building. You're seeing a lot of building going on the Elgin O'Hare Expressway, and you're seeing
Yeah.
a lot of, I want to say, structures being built along that new highway.
Yes.
You're seeing it in Itasca. You're seeing it in Glendale Heights. You're seeing it all along that stretch that goes all the way up through. You're seeing it in Schaumburg. You're even seeing it towards the end of the spur when you get out towards Bartlett. Bartlett has had some great success in their park, in their industrial park out there, with some food producers and food suppliers. They have and now I'm going to forget the name of the company, the number one basil producer in the country.
Okay.
So the number one the company that puts out more basil or more pesto than any other company in the entire world is in Bartlett, Illinois.
Okay.
And that's because they supply Kohl's or Costco, Sam's Club, and somebody else. But they supply all the pesto
Yeah.
for all of that. And that's at the end of the spur.
Right.
So you've got that. You've also got another headquarters is just moving into Itasca. They're building a 80,000 square foot facility in Itasca that'll be off of the 390 as well. So the 390 is going to be extremely successful. It'll even be more successful when it's, if you've seen it, literally it goes from 290 to the end over in just that Hanover Park Bartlett area.
Okay.
That is entirely completed. There's obviously some landscaping work that needs to be done, but the road is entirely completed all the way through. And if you saw how quick they did it, if you ever went on 290 to say Woodfield,
The flyover and everything
the
else.
flyover was just incredible how fast
I
that
went by there
went.
last week and coming back from Wisconsin. I couldn't imagine how much they got done.
That was incredible. And you know, some of that's attested to also a mild winter. We've had two fairly mild winters. We haven't had any really big. It's been a while since we've had a big, brutal, bad winter that shut down everything for a month and a half. So they were still able to get accomplished. But if you see that flyover, that thing got done super fast.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I passed the resolution in 2013 that allowed them to start at the end of summer of 2013. So think about that. They put that shovel in the ground, and they had trucks out there, and engineering was already done.
Right.
But because of the resolution I passed, it allowed them to start 8 months earlier. And think about that's 3 years ago. That's a huge amount of work done. And that the highway looks great. Now they're working on the process from 290 all the way into O'Hare Airport. You figure that's going to be 4 or 6 years as well.
I'll be the bad guy again. Where did the money come from?
The money's tollway. It's an actual tollway. Remember, of all the roadway systems and all the money systems that we have, the tollway is the only one that has their pensions taken care of and has their paying as they go. They're paying for as they're utilizing it, and it's up to the user. If you want to use the tollway, feel free. You can use the tollway, pay the tolls. If you don't want to use the tollway, there's other roads that'll get you to your destination.
You're going to have a tollway now on 55 coming up. What is that about? It could take one.
You know what? I've heard that. I haven't seen the full layout of the governor's plans. I've seen preliminary talks about it. The governor went out and said he'd like to do, I think he was calling it a toll express lane.
Yeah.
You know what? I have yet to see it. I just saw a thing.
Like a premium lane.
Right, but I just saw.
Pay for it.
I just saw a thing in Cranes the other day that he's not sure if that'll be a toll lane. He's looking to possibly make it a private developed lane. So I don't even think those are fully.
Well,
they're talking about what they'd like to do, but I don't think anybody has the actual idea of what they have done. And remember, the 390, that engineering was done. I mean, we had all those plans brought out for years.
Yeah, 20 years.
So we're seeing that, so that'll be done. And then the bypass that'll go from 294 all the way over to 90 around the west end of O'Hare, that should be done probably 6 years, 7 years after that. So we've still got another 8 to 12 years based on seasons and everything else for that entire road and that entire project to be
DuPage
completed.
County is part of the system here. Is that going to go into O'Hare Field altogether one day?
Yeah, we're looking at it, and we should see. I would say you probably won't see it for 10 years, considering the rest of that road isn't going to be done for at least 8.
Yeah.
And then they'll probably wait till after the secondary bypass is done.
But
So you're talking at
20
least.
years to get this far.
Took us 20 years just to put a shovel in the ground. You're right,
That's
Dennis.
Yeah, nothing comes easy.
Good golly, at my age, can't we increase the speed on that?
No, you just got to hang around, Sid. You hang around.
Sid, you
don't-
just
don't
got to
go
stick
around.
around forever.
Let's hope he does. And the one thing that, this brings up, and I don't really have anything that's current about this, but you were village president here when we have some infrastructure issues that had
Right.
to be taken care of, and I'm talking about the bridge.
Right.
On Ardmore Avenue that went to North Avenue. And the time involved to get that processed was extensive. I mean, lots of years, because the funding had come from the state, all of the approvals that the state had to go back and forth on, but it got done. That's one of my worries, and there's nothing that I've prepared about that, but infrastructure in the state and DuPage County. All the bridges, all of the things that we have to, that are on state highways that have to be taken care of. With all of the budget impasse issues, when are we ever going to get to that?
So what
And
you're
how?
what you're going to see in this November, there's actually going to be a constitutional amendment that comes up, and I'm hoping everybody votes yes on it. It has to deal with the infrastructure of the state.
Okay.
The state brings in revenue for infrastructure. State brings in multiple sources of revenue for infrastructure, whether it's a gas tax, whether it's a tax on cars, whether it's different ways and fees that it brings in money specifically supposed to be set aside to fix your roads and bridges. The biggest problem we have is that for a lot of years, that money gets diverted for other sources. So this year there is a constitutional amendment that'll say all road funds that are brought in through tax dollars, brought in through road fees, whether they're a fee on your license plate, a fee on gas, a fee on oil, a fee on waste disposal, a fee, wherever these fees are coming from that are specified for road and infrastructure, can no longer be moved anywhere else.
Okay.
So that's what the
Can't be
amendment's saying.
appropriated for something
They
else.
cannot be appropriated, they cannot be swept, they cannot be taken away. It took us a little while to get through. I was a co-sponsor of that legislation to get it through. It took us a little while to get it through, but that's probably one of the biggest sources of issues, essentially statewide. For a lot of our budget woes, it's years and years from both sides of the aisle of sweeping money.
Yeah.
Sweeping
Yeah.
money to special projects that may not have been needed, sweeping money to things that weren't as necessary, but certainly look good for a legislator to get. Personally, I always thought it would have looked great for a legislator to fix our bridge. But we could never seem, I could never seem to get that done.
But, okay, now you do call Seattle and work with the other side.
Yes, you know what, I do that specifically.
I have to pat you on the back for that because you do. I call you and complain sometimes. But, you know, the biggest competitor you have is the Chicago Tribune for telling the stories.
Right,
You know, they tell parts of stories.
right. Well, I come from, obviously coming from DuPage County, being the Democrat, the first Democrat senator out of here. There's a lot of difference of opinion, I would say, but
We don't
but
agree
there's
on
but
everything.
there's not that much in a difference of ways to get things accomplished and ways to get things done, and we worked very well together here in Villa Park. I sat on the Water Commission, worked very well to work with all the Republican members of the Water Commission. All the other mayors in DuPage County are Republicans. I worked very well with them. So going down to Springfield, my goal was to fix and change the way things are being done. And we've made a lot of significant movement on that. But the biggest problem I have is that, say, the Trib or any other organization that lumps in, they go the Democrats.
That's right.
They don't talk about differences
They-
between areas, regions. Because I would tell you what, if you said Democrats and you looked at some of our downstate members who are,
They shake their head. They don't.
they don't, their differences from a Democrat downstate to a Democrat up here is almost night and day. So there is a lot of difference, but some of the news organizations would rather just say Democrats
That's right.
and lump us all in together.
Route 80 is downstate.
Route 80 is, see, and there's the other thing. Most people think Route 80 is downstate, and that's not necessarily true either. Downstate really is, you got to get past St. Louis, and you start seeing a whole different type of
different
country
state,
down
yeah.
there. It is almost like a different state. You get down by Shawnee National Forest and all that. Heck, Shawnee National Forest, I believe, is further south than Louisville. If you look at a map of the
And
United
even-
States,
yeah.
Louisville's here, Shawnee National Forest is here.
Yeah.
So it's actually below the line.
That's Kentucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
it's a beautiful
Oh,
spot.
it's a beautiful spot.
Outside of the bridge, what else did you bring to Villa Park?
Well, I worked with Senator Durbin and Congresswoman Duckworth to get us a fire truck,
You sure did.
which I really wish, sadly, when they did the whole photo op, I was at the Little League World Series with my son out in Cooperstown, Illinois. So I
I'm
was
an expert
unable to.
Photoshopper. Just give me something. I'll put it in there.
So I was unable to be there for the breaking in ceremony because I would have loved to see. From what I understand, Senator Durbin was like a kid,
He was very
had his
proud.
hat on, and he was
Got
just
a ride
running
on the
around. He
engine.
was
He
loving.
He wanted to drive.
He was loving
wanted
being
to
on the
drive.
engine.
I was there taking the video, so I saw it.
So we got that done. We've brought some small infrastructure grants, just 5,000 here, 10,000 there. That my understanding are being utilized more for engineering drafts, things like that. Nothing,
You helped us in sanitary district. Yeah, gotta get help.
nothing
Get
that nothing that gets us, considering the way our budget is right now, there aren't big projects coming through, but there is money to get engineering done. There is
Okay.
money to start with grants for parks. There is money to make sure that we get the engineering done for this St. Charles Bridge project that's going to have to be done and completed. So there's a lot of that. Then there's also money for waterways that we've brought in, money to make sure that Salt Creek, We're trying to do whatever we can to work with the DuPage Stormwater Commission to make sure that Salt Creek doesn't keep flooding over.
Do it with the dams.
You know, so the big thing for us is well, some of it goes to Villa Park, other dollars go to other areas in the county that sort of have a good effect for everybody.
Oh, we want that
Stormwater one is a big one.
Yes.
All you want is what back?
Our money back there. We send down the state.
Hey, and there's the other one. I did pass the bill that got everybody their motor fuel tax money back, and or not their motor fuel tax. Yes, their motor fuel tax and their occupation tax and their retail tax that was being held up. I put that together in a bill with the lottery money, and you'd be amazed at how easy legislators were able to vote yes when a bunch of lottery winners were suing the state and yelling at everybody.
We didn't get paid yet.
We also, the other one we did is we made it so that local government, now this was a bill I passed 2 years ago I'd passed with Representative DeLuca, who was another former mayor, to make sure that the local government distributive fund is direct deposited.
Okay.
So now, as soon as the treasurer certifies the amount that came in, it goes direct deposited. It has 30 days from the comptroller to be direct deposited. So if you talk to when I first was a trustee and it was Rod Blagojevich was governor, I think we were 9, 10, almost 11 months on our local government distributor fund
Waiting for your money.
from income tax. And now I don't think anybody's more than 60 days because your money comes in, it gets certified, and it has to get direct deposited within 30 days of certification.
So it gets back to ground level.
So it goes right back to the municipality.
Yeah.
Well, there's other things you omitted that I know that you were involved in because of my time here, and that is there's a couple of businesses and now residents that are going to be underway, projects that started when you were here, and that is, first of all, we'll go to MCC Motorcycle on St. Charles
We're
Road.
doing great, from my
They're
understanding.
doing fantastic.
And the place is beautiful.
Yeah, and that was looking to move away from Villa Park, and you helped them be convinced to stay.
I will tell you what, that was a good success for the town, and I have to give big thanks to my neighbor Jim, who his hobby is on the weekend racing motorcycles.
Yeah.
And I was walking the dog past one day, and he goes, you know, these guys are looking at leaving. They got to expand, and they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I said, well, did they talk to anybody in the village? He said, I don't know, go talk to them. So Tuesday, I saw him on Sunday night. On Tuesday, I walked into their store with the Summerfest poster going, hey, I want to put this up for Summerfest. By the way, this is my neighbor. He was telling me. And the guy said, yeah, actually, we've signed a lease in Addison.
Yeah.
So I said, well, don't do that. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can work with. And the prior community development director, Mamie Yee,
Yes.
was that her name?
Maybe.
I'm trying to remember all the different.
There was another person.
Mamie Yee was the one. Her and I started working with MCC, talking to them about getting into the Oakfield Ford. And we did some incentives for them, did some paybacks for them, and they ended up moving there. And from what I can see and from going in there a few times, they always are busy. They seem to be moving bikes out of there, and they're doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
And so is Harley Davidson on North Avenue.
Well, Harley Davidson's doing beautifully.
Yeah, they just had their own little ribbon cutting for their
Right.
new project
the
there.
parking lot is beautiful.
Yeah,
Right.
looks great. But another thing that is now coming to pass and goes back to your time is the Garden Station project
Right.
by the Metro station. And back when they first had a quote-unquote ribbon cutting ceremony for the project start, you were there, and that's going to be a place for people to live.
Well, I'm very pleased that that's about to go. It was, I felt terrible for. It's one of those that guy invested all that money and literally bought all that property, and then, I don't know, 6 months after he closed the deal on the final one, the economy dropped.
Tanked, yeah.
I was on
Just
EDC
flushed.
at the time.
Yeah.
You know, we were working with Tom at the time and
Yeah.
getting it going. But everything was going, and all of a sudden everything
Bad.
stopped.
He was in great shape. He had bankers lined up. He had everything set. He had purchased all the property. He had worked with the village. We had plans that he liked. He had talked to everybody in town who talked about it. We had gotten this great opportunity, and everything was all set. And then literally the market just
Just dropped.
dropped. and he was, thank goodness he wasn't wiped out and didn't go bankrupt and now put all that into receivership. He actually was able to hold onto the property, and now he's, from my understanding and from looking at the village's websites and hearing about public meetings here, he's going to be up and running very soon.
Right.
We had to give him a tip. The village had to give him a tip to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's why you do it.
That's
You do
right.
it.
That's what the tips
It's a
are for.
different time than it was when he first bought all that. Man, everything was going through the
Oh, yes.
roof. Everything was great. His
Yeah.
life was perfect, and then the market just destroyed.
Well, and maybe it's all the better. I mean, you got to shift as you go through these projects. These two guys know because they were involved in the original Ovaltine
Right.
projects that took place, and all the developers.
You
that
mean
came
when they
through.
brought Ovaltine here as a factory?
I think
He
it's.
was.
I think it's when they.
He
I
was.
think it's back when they invented chocolate.
We moved him from Sweden.
Sid's not- I know you're going to say something, Sid. Go ahead.
Come on, Sid, hit it.
Hit it.
What I want to know, no, I was not here when they built Ovaltine,
The original.
the original Ovaltine.
Gotcha.
Now, when the second, no. Tom, are we through talking about?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You could talk about
Okay,
anything.
because I would like to ask you, what your abilities in the Senate is doing is something that is fabulous. I'm tremendously impressed.
Thank you.
And I told you once that when you're inaugurated as president of the USA, I want to be there. I want the front row seat. But
There's precedence
That's a
for
little
that.
in the
You're right.
future.
There's precedence.
what stands out as the one thing? Is there any one thing that stands out in your last 3 years that you could think of that would be great or bad?
Being on this show.
I will tell you, one of the one of the best things for me is the amount of people I've met, and not only people in the district, but throughout our state. You know, I've been lucky enough. I have a farm bureau that I adopted down in Southern Illinois, Montgomery County, and I go down and see them a couple times a year. This past spring, they came up and saw me. They took a bus trip, 15, 16 of them. We took them to Addison Trail High School. We took them to SWD Manufacturing. Then we had a little reception for them afterward. They met county board members. You know, I had a bunch of Republican county board members show up. And they're all like, wait, you do get along. And I go, I told you, we get it. You know, this isn't. So the press is hitting them down there, too, that they
Yeah.
believe
Oh,
this
yes.
is
One way.
that this is just a one-way, beat everybody up. But it's really not. I've met some great people. I have had the opportunity to be involved in a lot of positive things that I think are moving the state forward. I'm changing sort of the culture of what's going on down in Springfield. And you're seeing, while we do have some people that have been around for a while, when I got down there in 2000, when I was elected in 2012, 1/3 of the legislature was turning over. Since 2014, you've probably had another 15%, 16%. Just in our resignations and the people leaving in this past year, you've probably seen you're going to see another 15 new legislators in. So literally in my time from when I started this race in 2012 to today, we have almost 60% new people in the Illinois legislature. And they're all coming in with new ideas, new areas, and that's been probably the highlight for me, is meeting all the people that I've met from everywhere throughout the state, from every corner of the state, and probably also, you know, every year I go down to the state fair now. We'd only been once with the kids, but now we go every year. So I get to load up on corn dogs like a crazy person at least once a year.
Yeah. And they're healthy. They're always good.
And they're always
good.
solid.
Good.
Well, you just mentioned something about the attrition that goes
Yes.
on. And so I don't think any artificial methods to change that are necessary.
Well, I think the key is you're going to find
People have to be elected every
your
2
best
years.
your
in
best
the House.
your best probably way to do it is if you keep a leadership term limit proposal as opposed to look. I don't think anybody would have ever disputed Kirk Dillard. I
Right.
think Kirk Dillard could have stayed there They loved him over there. He got a lot accomplished. He had a lot of solid people behind him. Another person you'll talk to when you talk about term limits is right now Peter Roscom would be done.
Yeah.
And if you talk to everybody in that district, and probably everybody in DuPage County, they'd be heartbroken if they were told that Peter Roscom is now done
Right. Right.
and he had to go away.
Right.
So I think right now term limits is a great political softball, because it is. It's a great political softball.
Yeah, it gets attention.
People have some anger they want to get rid of, and it's really all based on one or two people. But if you think about down to your own legislator, do they want to see Peter Roscom go? No, they probably don't. You're over in his district
No.
now. They don't want him gone.
We want him.
They want him.
Right.
We can talk to him.
And
Just like you. You know, no matter how many times you hang up on me, I can still call you back.
But Peter
It's
has-
always just a bad connection, Dennis. It's never really hanging up
No,
on you.
truthfully. And you're one of the few people who go both sides of the aisle,
Right.
and you talk to both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And I think quite a few of them down in Springfield talk both sides of the aisle, but the press doesn't say it.
Well, I think more people talk on both sides. Senator Murphy, who just resigned, and he's leaving on September 15th, he said the one thing that's disappointed him about what's going on today is that people don't see the work on both sides of the aisle. And they don't see, it doesn't get reported that people work a lot of long hours together to solve issues from different parties, from different mindsets. And then it's not just, one side tells the other side what to do. That there's a lot of work and a lot of dedication that goes into different pieces of legislation, how to get things accomplished, how to move towards the middle.
Right.
I mean, look, you couldn't have, if you didn't have both sides of the aisle and hundreds of hours of conversations with legislators from both parties, you would never pass something like medical marijuana.
Right. Right.
You would never see a concealed
never
carry
pass
bill.
nothing. You would never pass
You would never, easy stuff would get passed all the time. But a bill like concealed carry, if you didn't have downstate Republican legislators talking to inner city Democrat legislators and them finding a solution and finding a middle ground, you would never have those bills happen. And those bills happen every session. So there is that, but I hate to say it, a lot of times the press doesn't report on that
In
as well as we'd like them to.
Well, as press
Term
here in Villa
limitation.
Park, we do.
Right.
Term limitation was always an argument back in Pete Phillips and Reed Daniels days too.
Right.
Oh, they had control. They couldn't, you couldn't stop them. They're gone.
Right.
But
Nothing's
I mean,
fixed.
here's the deal. Term limits, they talk about it. I ran against a person who was down there for 20 years.
Yeah.
hey,
Change.
We had term limits in DuPage County years ago. That is, the sheriff could serve one term, the district attorney could serve one term. So I think all through the 30s, they switched back and forth. It was the sheriff for 4 years, state's attorney for 4 years, back to the
Kind of
sheriff.
backdoor term limits, I guess. Well,
And no, that's true.
Yeah, I know,
It's
it's
funny, but it's true.
well, we have come to a close of this hour.
Well, thank you.
And it's been another great time talking to you about what's going on.
Did we go over?
It's
You're
the
going to have
state-
to edit a bunch out?
no,
No,
Oh, all right.
2 more minutes.
Won't be anything
Wow.
edited out, but I just wanted to mention, you mentioned a couple of easy things that get passed.
Right.
And that was the support for the special needs families here in Illinois. And contemporary of yours in the past, when you were village president, former Elmhurst mayor and now board member, Mr. Pete Tiziani, is a very strong advocate of that.
Right.
And tell us about that real quick.
So the bill that I passed this year, it doesn't go as far as I wanted it to go, but again, you go back to negotiations and you get what people will allow. But it has to deal with the PUNS list. PUNS is the Prioritization Urgency Needs Assessment, which deals with how families of children with special needs receive services. So the PUNS list is heavily underutilized. This is all based on a court order by the Liggis family who sued the state of Illinois 10, 12 years ago because the state was not showing how to get people services. So they created what was called the PUNS list. But there have been people on the PUNS list who stayed on an incredible amount of time. So we want to make sure that that time gets accounted into all the considerations when it comes to the PUNS list. We worked with Autism Awareness on this. I was very pleased to see it through. It got overwhelming support on both sides once it was negotiated. It was not a bill I wanted to be argued in committee or argued on the floor. So once it was negotiated, it was a lot easier to just bring it to the committee, bring it to the floor, and get it accomplished.
Right. There was another area, and I don't have all the details, but veterans support. In terms of suicide prevention, was there something that you worked on there?
So this year we've done a veteran suicide task force. We passed the legislation a year and a half ago. This past year we've had task force meetings. This summer we went on tour, went to 6 different community colleges, opened it up throughout the entire state, had veterans come in, tell us their stories about thoughts of suicide, family members, what their suicide story was. We have 22 veterans a day killing themselves. So we need to address how that's affecting and how that's happening.
Yeah.
For us, for me as a veteran, it was an easy bill to pass, and it hasn't been an easy commission to sit on, but it's one that I'm glad I sit on that commission. And we should have a report out by the end of the year so that the General Assembly in 2017, once that's sworn in, can take any steps that we put in that report of whether it's increased services, whether it's cross-referencing services, whether it's getting veterans more jobs. Whatever we come up with on the report, we're hopeful that we can get legislation passed through that'll help us reduce that number, if not nationally, at least here in Illinois, and maybe move it to a larger model.
Tom, let me ask you this.
We gotta go. We gotta go see. I'm sorry. We'll get them in next time.
That was a good
third
question.
time. We'll edit that in. It'll be something fantastic. But we've got to go because we're up at the end of the hour. So, Tom, it's been great. It's been great to have you again.
Thank you
so much.
Of course.
Stay the course down in
Thank you,
Springfield.
Ted.
for
Of course.
us And the other members of your district.
I told you to be safe here.
It's always safe.
And you've covered some things that were important to cover. So
Thank
we
you.
appreciate your time. And folks, thanks for watching. Our guest has been Tom Cullerton,
Get out and vote.
and we will see you next time.
Nice job. Got cut off right at the end.